When King Von was shot outside the hookah lounge, his family hurried him to the emergency department, but according to his cousin, when he made it through 2 major surgeries, things swiftly took a dark turn.
Supposed to have 3 surgeries, he made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the 2nd surgery and started fighting, supposedly.
Early. On November 6, 2020, the rap game lost a monster in the streets, and recently obtained CCTV footage of Van's final moments has been made public. What it reveals is stranger than anyone could have predicted. The final hours of King Von were neither quiet nor tidy. The actual tale of what happened inside the emergency room was something out of a drill myth, unreal and deeply distressing for years, even while cameras outside documented the frenzy of gunshots and bloodshed, is what King Von's admirers in Chicago never witnessed after he was shot dead in front of the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. According to a March 18, 2025, Reddit post titled "Bo explains how King Von died during surgery," King Von was buried until a man named Bo dropped a bombshell that ripped through the hip-hop community like a bullet. Fans flooded in with 300 stunned reactions and over 400 upvotes as they tried to make sense of what they read. Vaughn allegedly woke up mid-surgery, propelled by pure adrenaline, and sprang off the operating table like he was back on the block, according to a March 2025 World Star hip-hop article. According to this post, Vaughn's survival instincts were triggered by the same fire that gave him his nickname in Oblak, "One Final Time."
Had 3 surgeries, but he made it. He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the 2nd surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse.
Vaughn reportedly rebelled against medical personnel, wanting his gun back and refusing to die without a fight, despite bullets tearing his body apart, in what seems to be an exact quote from his own songs. B claims that King Von had a tendency to reach for heat, and that this last act of disobedience, a final middle finger to death itself, was what ultimately led to his demise. In addition to the bullet wounds, his physical rage and refusal to give up pushed his body to the breaking point, resulting in cardiac shock and eventual collapse. The internet exploded. One fan said, "That's the most Van thing I've ever heard. He died how he lived. A real soldier." Another said that Bro was the most scared since he was looking for his pole in the damn surgery area. You had to know who King Von, whose real name was Devin Bennett Vaughn, wasn't before you can grasp why this version of events is so powerful. By the middle of 2025, the narrative had been shared thousands of times on social media, with enthusiasts delving into every aspect of King Von's alleged final stand. Vaughn was merely a bar-drinking rapper, but when he released songs like Crazy, Story, and Took Her to the O, listeners heard more than just lyrics. They heard truth, truth that was experienced, truth that was scarred. He was a walking legend in the drill scene, well known on the streets of Chicago long before the music industry even heard of him. He epitomized that raw Chicago spirit without any filter or gimmicks. His influence was further expanded by his association with Lil Durk's F-Gang. Lived unfettered and freely, which is why this story doesn't seem all that implausible. His closest friends and relatives say it fits his legacy like a piece of a puzzle. People praise it instead of questioning it when they learn that Vaughn may have gone out hurling fists at medics demanding his strap back, barely breathing but still ready to slide. But in truth, he might have died because of that very attitude. Even though Van's battle was heartbreaking, his body could not withstand it, even though he fought until the end.
Because he went into shock. So
yeah.
So I'm guessing if he would just laid there, he probably would.
Only were people grieving, but they were also mythologizing. Von really jumped off the operating table looking for his gun. One post said, "That's not a rapper, that's a warrior." Others said, "They say he didn't just die, he went out ready to slide. That's why the ops feared him even dying, he was dangerous." That created a new chapter in drill folklore for the loyal fans who followed Van through every lyric, headline, and conflict. It's not possible to regain consciousness like that after trauma. Medical specialists might chuckle, but rationality has no place in the mythos of the streets because in the world that Vaughn lived in, Chicago's Oblak and beyond, reality was more significant than reality. It is discussed in whispered, or mentioned in tribute songs and shown on murals. In their bars, artists started using this image, narrating tales of Vaughn leaping off the operating table, searching for the pole, and departing the world as though he had entered it in attack mode. Tun's followers honor the man who, according to tradition, tried to find peace in his final moments by setting toy weapons at impromptu shrines, not as a jest. More memorable than any album cover King Vaughn has ever issued is the picture of him refusing to die peacefully after getting out of a hospital bed. Whether you believe Boosie's horrifying story or not, one remark summed it up perfectly. They haven't dropped the charges because they had proof. No, they dropped them because even the system knew Vaughn was built differently. On March 19, 2025, world star hip-hop sparked an online sensation with the headline, "King Vaughn reportedly died after jumping out of hospital bed to fight staff post-surgery, making the artist an immortal figure." His last moments were not one of fear, but of fire for his fans. This wasn't just another tragic end. It was the perfect farewell for a man who lived up to his last heartbeat. The timing was chilling, because a few hours later, a thread titled "Bo explains how King Von died during surgery" went viral on Reddit. A YouTube video purporting to show actual footage of the alleged hospital chaos went viral like a nuclear bomb on April 10, 2025, despite the fact that, let's be clear, none of these clips showed actual footage, not even a security camera or raw hospital tapes, just overlays that slowed down interviews and looped music video scenes. Perception is prophecy in the digital age, and Van's legend was too loud to properly verify, but we must go back in time to understand the weight of this legend. King Vaughn, also known as Doug Bennett, rose from the war-torn concrete of Oblak, Chicago, and was more than just a rapper. He was Lil Durk's chosen one. In 2018, he formally signed to the Only the Family label, and in Savannah, Georgia, a young rapper named Quando Rondo, real name Takawi, was rising through the ranks under NBA YoungBoy's Never Broke Again collective. Vaughn wasn't just a name in a headline. He was forged in the fire of industry rivalries and street-coded alliances that go deeper than most fans can even imagine. The Cold War had been simmering for years, fueled by coded lyrics, subtle jabs, and mounting tension between Durk and YoungBoy. And in 2018, King Vaughn was the frontliner who never held back from sending a message. He immediately jumped on Instagram Live, straight up mocking NBA YoungBoy's credibility, asking, "What the F are YoungBoy talking? Ya bout?" He was speaking incoherently, and he wasn't even like that cap. It wasn't stylish, shaded, it was direct warfare. In most rap circles, that's just bravado, but in the high-stakes, trigger-ready world of drill music, shots like that don't fade. Instead, they fester, grow, and wait to strike back. What's even more chilling is Van's own reflection, which he made in a rare sit-down days before he died. "Ain't no rap beef, ain't no real beef unless somebody got shot." Those words would reverberate like a prophecy, because on November 6, 2020, at 4 a.m., someone did something that night outside Atlanta's Monaco Hookah Lounge. Cursed Van and his crew were walking peacefully when they stumbled upon Quando Rondo's camp. Millions of people have watched the surveillance footage, which demonstrates that the van moved forward without hesitation or need for backup. A scuffle broke out, blows landed, and chaos engulfed the parking lot. Within seconds, the long simmering feud became a full-fledged tragedy, with fists flying, gunshots exploding, and one of the shooters, later identified as Timothy Lulu Tim Leaks, a known affiliate of Wando Rondo, emerged from behind an SUV and started shooting. Off-duty and on-duty, officers from the Atlanta Police Department were already on the scene and returned fire to try to control the chaos, but reports later revealed that Vaughn was struck several times in that first round of gunfire before police could even step in. By the time it was over, 3 men were pronounced dead, including Vaughn and his associate Mark Blakely, another young Chicagoan who didn't return home that evening. On November 7, 2020, just one day after the deadly shootout, Timothy Leaks was arrested and charged with felony murder because, ironically, he was still recovering from his own gunshot wounds when he was arrested while lying in a hospital bed at Grady Memorial. The Atlanta Police Department initially pretended that the case was closed, but it was too late. During the shootout, Vaughn was transported to a hospital by private vehicle instead of ambulance. It was thought that Leaks would come down for the murder, but the plot twisted despite the seriousness of the crime. Felony murder is not bondable under Georgia law. As investigators dug deeper, more names started to fall, including Kevin Jones and Johnny Harris, who was booked for illegal firearm possession. Little Reese, one of Van's longtime allies, responded with a threat that went viral on social media saying, "We'll go and roll his ass up real soon." The Georgia Bureau of Investigation investigated the officers' roles after they were charged with aggravated assault, but one name continued to dominate the public and fans' minds. Then, in August 2023, it was shockingly announced that Timothy Leaks' felony murder charge had been dropped without reduction before trial, before indictment, before justice. His lawyer, Noah Pines, confirmed the decision. But the district attorney's office never offered an explanation for why they refused to hold a press conference or issue a statement, and that silence became fuel for the fire. As the two camps, the F and NBA, drew battle lines, allegiances hardened, and tensions turned into open warfare. But instead, it had become a cultural firestorm that would rage on YouTube, Spotify, and the streets of Atlanta, Chicago, and Savannah, where diss recordings were released like artillery. Wando took the first action in the aftermath on November 20th, 2020, when he released End of Story, a song that directly attacked public opinion, presenting the entire episode as self-defense, spitting out the video, which is all the proof that should have kept me from being attacked, but instead. However, Quando's innocence campaign didn't sit well with everyone. In fact, many saw it as disrespect disguised as denial, and it felt like a taunt, a line drawn in blood. Months later, in an interview with Angela Ye in April 2021, Quando doubled down, claiming he was asleep in the car and didn't even know. It was Vaughn until the next day. He even denied attempting to snatch Van's chain, a rumor that went viral online. This wasn't grief, this was celebration. The crowd was stunned, the internet exploded, but the most terrifying moment was Quando buying Lulam a diamond-encrusted watch as a way of saying, "I stand with you." DJ Academics posted the video, and fans went crazy. At first, Little Dirk Van's brother-in-arms responded subtly, but as time passed and Dirk continued talking, his music became more intense, darker, and more focused. A silent war became incredibly loud, and then in January 2022, NBA Youngboy released the song Bring the Hook, which openly disrespects Van's death and even makes fun of Oblak. This caused Squid Game O Block Pack to get rolled up, and Dirk immediately responded in his song, Aha. He didn't mince words, but since the feud between Vaughn and Quando had grown into a battle of empires by that point, while NBA Youngboy's camp stood firmly behind Quando, and Little Dirk's F camp was getting ready for war. However, the real eruption came more than a year later on August 19th, 2022, when everything changed. This time, it wasn't just another shootout, but a statement. Quando was ambushed in Los Angeles, and this time, his cousin Xavier Robinson, known in the streets as Lil Pab, was killed to death. The war didn't end with diss tracks or street level. Gunfire on May 3rd, 2021, when shots rang out in Blackshear, Georgia, proving that the streets hadn't forgotten King Vaughn. Blood fans of Van's movement rejoiced on forums and live streams, and one F affiliate, Brick Baby, didn't hold back when he said, "I can't slide for Vaughn anymore." At that point, the streets went silent because, behind the scenes, a darker phenomenon was taking shape. In October 2024, just short of the 4th anniversary of Van's death, everything exploded, and US Marshals arrested Lil Durk in Florida on broad federal charges. For months, there had been a retaliation theory. But no one had predicted that this death would spark a federal storm. Dirk paid 5 known associates, Kayvon London, DeAndre Dantrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Lindsay, and Asa Houston, to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles to carry out the assassination, according to the indictment filed in U.S. District Court Los Angeles. Credit card receipts demonstrated that Dirk was not only emotionally involved, but also the mastermind behind the hit that killed Lil Pab. The most damning evidence was that Dirk tried to flee the country after his people were picked up, booking flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy. The charges were stacked conspiracy to commit murder for hire, resulting in death use of interstate facilities to commit murder use of a firearm. Records linked to Dirk's camp for travel expenses encrypted text messages like, "Don't book no flights under no names involving Whitney." Location data confirmed Dirk was in the San Fernando Valley on the day of the hit. Machine gun during a violent act the feds weren't playing. If convicted, Dirk faces life in prison or even the death penalty. The massive amount of evidence, including 230 gigabytes or more of digital files and over 20,000 pages of investigative reports, caused his trial to be postponed from January 2025 to October 14, 2025. In February 2025, Lil Pab's mother, Andrea L'Aquila Robinson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Dirk, his business manager, and a third-party entertainment company. The criminal and civil walls were now closing in from both sides. Dirk's lawyers retaliated heavily, accusing prosecutors of relying, while legal experts cautioned that this practice disproportionately affects black musicians and blurs the line between art and intent. Dirk's defense team argued that using lyrics as courtroom evidence is unconstitutional, racially biased, and sets a dangerous precedent for all hip-hop artists. Despite the legal community's struggles with that argument, the human cost remained undeniable, and at 26, Lil Pab, the murder case, was turned into a national legal debate through fan-made YouTube videos that edited interviews and even used rap lyrics as evidence. Wando Rondo surprised his fanbase by posting a mystery Instagram story with a black and white ad for a new song called Life Goes On, with the shocking comment, "We didn't come into this game to die in it." Amid the pandemonium, 3 days after Dirk's arrest, he died in his cousin's embrace. "I've lost too much. Forgiveness is survival, not weakness. We didn't come into this game to die in it," he wrote, without mentioning Dirk by name. "Prayers up for everyone involved. I've lost too much. Forgiveness is survival, not weakness. I'm praying for everyone concerned." It was a clear and unmistakable message. It felt like a ceasefire, a desperate breath in a war that had claimed too many lives. For once, fans, industry insiders, and even rival artists began discussing whether Rondo was trying to defuse the situation, or if the ongoing violence and the memory of Van's death had finally driven him to the brink. Intentional or not, it was a change, but this feud isn't over. Dirk is facing a high-profile federal trial, and this story will be in the news for months or even years. Van's legacy cemented Rondo's fate, and Shaky Dirk's future juggling freedom and federal time, ready to snap at any moment. The line between music and murder has never been thinner. What do we do with a story like this, where rivalries spill out of studios into cemeteries, rap lyrics become blueprints, and fame becomes a prison cell?